Today I'm coming to you from a random neighborhood in Washington, D.C., and today I want to vent a little bit about California. I want to talk about some of the pros and cons of California, and pretty much want to get right into them because over the last few months, Lauren and I have been traveling for our real estate crash courses to areas like Seattle, and we're going to be in Austin, Texas next week. And something unique about both of these areas is they both do not have a state income tax. And that's the first thing that I find really interesting is if, let's say you were hustling in California, or you know what, maybe you're not now, but you know you will be making, say, $300,000 a year in the future, whether you're in sales or programming or whatever. Let's compare $300,000 a year in California to Texas or, you know, Seattle, which Seattle's got its tech boom going on as well. You got Microsoft over there, Amazon's over there like crazy, Redfin's over there. So, you know, similar kinds of jobs, similar kind of pay, yet the tax difference is crazy. $300,000 in California, you probably get taxed at an additional about $26,000, which what's crazy about that is if you just packed your bags from California and moved and found something else to live in, which, oh, this looks pretty cool. Look, this whole balcony looks like it's kind of rotten away over here. Squirrel. Anyway, you just packed your bags. You could go rent something, and let me clarify the part on rent, but you could go rent something in Seattle or Bellevue or Austin, Texas for, say, I don't know, $2,000 a month or whatever, get a studio or one bedroom or whatever you can get, and you'd basically be living for free. Because remember, in California, you were paying like this extra $25,000, $26,000 in taxes, which you could then use for your housing expense. So here's like a whole new twist on live for free. Move to a no income tax state compared to one that has high income taxes. Crazy. Now, there are 5 of these states. There's Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Seattle, or well, Washington, and Texas. By the way, Austin, Texas is apparently voted the most desirable city in the country, which is crazy because there are also some cons of leaving California, which we'll talk about in just a second. I gotta cross the street. This thing? This is Amazon. This is called a Movi. It's a little gimbal. Amazon affiliate link in the description for the Movi. So let me clarify quickly why rent. See, Lauren and I have thought about this. Like, what if we did an experiment year just to see, and we moved to like Seattle or Bellevue, Washington, or Austin, Texas, or whatever for a year, just to see how we'd fit in, if we'd liked it, you know, how much money we would actually save if we moved there. Is the cost of living really lower in addition to lower taxes? You know, those could be some pretty good benefits. You could end up saving a lot of money. And if we did that, I have a specific rule when it comes to moving. First of all, if you already own real estate, keep all your real estate. Just keep it all and have a manager manage it, which shouldn't be difficult because you should already have quality tenants in place. You should already know good property managers in your area, so that shouldn't be an issue. But the reason I say rent first where you move is because you want to become very knowledgeable in your area first. If you're going to move to a new area, you should really go there and at least explore, you know, go to open houses for like 6 months, start learning which blocks are the good blocks and the bad blocks. Oftentimes good real estate agents, by the way, they'll be able to say things like, oh, you're looking on that street? Oh, good luck. You know, that's the kind of knowledge and reaction that you want to have when you see street names. So that way you know how to identify good deals. That's actually one of the principles I constantly talk about, is how to become an expert in your local area in the real estate investing course, which remember to get 22% off on that until September 10th using coupon code 10X2020. One more thing to keep in mind if you're thinking about renting, to me, it's okay if you're gonna stay there, you know, short term, like under 6 months, rent there for a little bit, you don't like it, you move, great, it does give you that flexibility. But I get a lot of people that come to me and say, oh, well, I'm only going to be in the area for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. That to me is too long to be renting. That's a great opportunity to spend that 6 months or that first year lease hunting and looking for a good property to buy. Then buy something. Spend a year getting to know that property. Become an expert in that property. Buy it with 5% down, 10% down, homeowner occupant financing. Now, jump on over to your new destination. You're not tied down or anchored down by this 30-year mortgage. Instead, what are you doing? You're now controlling another income property. You move, and now you're building your wealth everywhere you've lived. It's another way to hack, or what I call bank hack, where you take advantage of multiple That's another opportunity where you can do what I call bank hack. You jump around these different locations, take advantage of that homeowner occupant financing, which ordinarily you need a reason to move. But let's say you keep relocating because of your job. There you go. You have a built-in bank excuse. But anyway, the second thing that's really frustrating about California is it seems like every time we kind of shoot in the dark and just look at what schools are rated, it's always like a 6 or 7 or sometimes even a 5. It seems like there's a really good chance of you getting a school that doesn't necessarily have super great ratings. And that's a little bit frustrating because we've got a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old, and these are things that are important. You know, good schools, I think, are super important. I mean, I remember as a kid going to a bunch of different schools, so I know what bad schools felt like, and I know what good schools felt like. Now, places like Austin, Texas, and Seattle, Washington tend to have higher property taxes, which might be why the schools are better. But over there, if you were to shoot in the dark, you tend to find these schools that are, you know, somewhere between 8s, 9s, and 10s. I mean, you could shoot in the dark and end up getting a pretty good school, you know, almost guaranteed. It's across the street over here. I don't think anybody will mind. You know, the other thing about California is really space. Everything is much more expensive for the size you get. You know, in California, if you spent $1 million on a home, you know, maybe in our area you'd get like a 2,200, 2,500 square foot property in a nice area. You know, maybe 3,000 square feet. You spend $1 million out in Austin, Texas. Oh my gosh. You get like a 7,000 square foot mansion. You can go to Bellevue, Washington, and even out there, you can get like a 4,500 or 5,000 square foot property in some areas. It's crazy. And I mean, look at this. They got sunflowers in DC. We don't have sunflowers in California. Okay, maybe we do, but those are just the gripes that I have with California. Taxes, schools, and space. You know, it's limited because things just get so pricey out there. And I know there are pricey parts of Seattle, obviously. You know, it's an expensive city as well, or Bellevue. And I'm sure there are pricey parts of Austin. You know, so I'm sure it all balances out. And I'm sure I'm missing some details, but there's some real frustrations that come with California. But I will tell you, there are also some pros with California. And, well, those might be somewhat overwhelming pros. Biggest thing about staying in California I found though was the weather. Every time Lauren and I looked up weather for Bellevue, Washington or whatever, you know, you kind of get a little bit of this feeling like, oh, why does Bellevue or Seattle have a certain reputation? Or then you look at Austin, it's like, okay, what's the weather in Austin today? And it's, you know, 90 to 106. Now, yeah, those are the summer months, but hey, the climate says 6 to 8 months out of the year, it's high humidity and higher heat. And I used to live in South Florida, so I don't know if it's as bad as South Florida, but I get it. And Lauren has asthma and allergies, which kind of flare up with humidity. So we've got a little bit of this countervailing problem as well. And then you kind of contrast that with Ventura, California. Every single time I look at the weather, it's like 72, 72, 72. It rains very, very little, like what, maybe 30 days out of the year it rains. It's pretty weird. So it's a pretty dramatic difference. The other big factor is, I mean, I hate to say it, and a lot of people are going to be frustrated by this, but the appreciation rates have been relatively higher than most areas. And I know I'm going to get some comments from people that are like, oh, well, in my area, appreciation's been this, whatever. The long run historic averages, I'm not talking about catch-up appreciation, I'm not talking about gentrification appreciation, I'm talking about the long run historic averages of appreciation in California have been a lot higher. Which, remember, when you're calculating returns in real estate, there are 3 returns. Cash flow is one, appreciation is another return, and then how much you get a deal below market value is a third return on your investment in real estate. So you kind of have to always evaluate those 3 things. And when I try to control all of the elements that I can, and I just compare appreciation, California seems to do very well. Now, California cash flow is a little lower, but again, these things offset, and I know I can get good deals in all areas. Remember, if there are flippers in your area, you could get good deals in your area too. But beyond the appreciation factor of Southern California coastline real estate, I already know this area pretty well. So I feel like the amount of money that I would save moving, even if I saved, you know, I was doing some math, and let's say you broke $1 million in income, which is just like crazy to think about, but let's say that happened. You would save like $120,000 moving out of California, because it's not just the state tax brackets, but California also has this like evil 1.5% S corporation fee, which is like Really? I'm gonna get you there too? People open up an S Corp to save money, and then they tax that 1.5% on all income. California, it's just crazy with all the different taxes. But I mean, even let's go extreme. Say you made $1 million, and you would save $120,000 in taxes, which that's just crazy. That's just California taxes. I worry that I'd be leaving all my real estate knowledge on the table in California, my real estate business on the table in California, which would be bad. But hey, the next biggest thing, family. Family is super valuable too. So a lot of things going on. To me, it's one of those things where I think maybe I'm sharing my frustrations with California. So if you don't yet live in California, maybe that's something to keep in mind, especially if you live in a tax-free state. But you gotta try to look at all the variables, and this is my way of looking at the variables. So thanks for watching, and let me know what your thoughts are.